My name's Jennifer Webb, and I am the Director of Enrollment Management and Financial Aid here at Flint Hill. And we are so delighted that all of you are here to join us tonight for this upper school information session. In terms of our evening, we are going to you'll hear from several different people here at Flint Hill. In just a moment, I'm going to turn it over to our headmaster. You'll also hear from our upper school division director, Don Page. You'll hear from Debbie Ayers, our assistant director of the upper school. And then we have a panel of parents, students, team members. And then I'll come back at the end and tell you all about admission next steps. In terms of the functions in Google Meet, I think that we're all very well used to this by now. But I know there's a few platforms out there. So I'll mention that for best sound quality, of course, we know it's when we're all muted. So we'll stay muted, but it doesn't mean that we don't want you to engage. We love to hear from you. We love to engage with you. So we do hope that you won't be shy about using the chat function. We have some of our upper school team members here joining us to help with the chat function. So send your questions in. We'll either answer them by typing back, or we'll answer them verbally when we can. So we are definitely looking forward to hearing from you. And at this point, I'll go ahead and turn it over to our wonderful headmaster of 17 years, John Thomas.
Thanks, Jennifer. And it's great to see so many of you here tonight. And hearing a title like headmaster, you may wonder, what in the world is that? And if you just want to have a way to keep it in perspective, if this was a live event, and I really wish it would be, and in the future we may try and do those, I'd be at the front door greeting you, welcoming you in, and then I'm at the door sometimes saying goodbye to people. And I had done that at an event a couple of years ago. And a woman was there with two little girls. It turned out to be their aunt, and they were leaving, and they were overheard going down the sidewalk where the aunt said, "So who was that nice man at the door who said goodbye to us?" And I said, "Oh, that's Mr. Thomas. He's our school's mascot." So it's whatever role we play. We are Huskies. We do have a mascot. His name's Klondike. And you're going to hear more about why we think being a Husky is so important. Because I will tell you, we use the Iditarod dog sled race as a metaphor for our educational journey, with the idea that some days that's got to be the most beautiful, spectacular trip, and other days it's probably terrifying and scary. And sometimes that's what school's like, or life is like. But the beauty is, by being a part of that team, we're doing it together. And we're a part of something much bigger than ourselves, and you're never alone. And somebody always has your back. And that's what it's like here at Flint Hill. To give you some of that also as parents, I also realize you've got two major responsibilities, and I'm sure they're similar to the ones my wife and I had when we were raising our three boys. Give your children unconditional love and get them educated. And the getting educated, that's where we fit in. And I hope as you meet people tonight, have a chance to get a feel for our culture, our unique sense of being, that you'll suddenly go, maybe that would be a good fit. That may be a great place for us to go. Because I will tell you, if you've seen one independent school, you've seen one independent school. We've all got a unique sense of purpose and value and everything, and do that. Now, we have some through lines at Flint Hill, and I want to touch base on some of them. And some is our technology, some is our a sense of focus on passion for learning, what we call the driving spirit. But I will tell you, the biggest part of it has to do with our sense of core values, how we look at kind of the social emotional development. You'll hear, when you hear from Don and Debbie Ayers and some others, you'll hear more about our academic program and what's going on there. But what I'd like to do is share a brief slideshow with you about our core values, just to give you some perspective on that. And to do that, I'm going to turn my camera off, so you're not looking at me, but looking right at the thing. And Jennifer, when I try and get this thing up, you'll just click on and tell me whether I was able to do it properly.
Absolutely. I can see it starting to present now.
Okay. And
I see the presentation. Yep. And it's full screen. Looks beautiful.
Okay, great. And that idea being Huskies, some of that goes right back to that idea of blazing our trail. And that has become a real phrase for us that I think is really important and helps everybody keeps focused. Because to be honest with you, we're playing for the long game. Not only what will they be like in the upper school and all those experiences that are exciting in college, but what kind of people are they going to be when they're in their 30s or 40s? What kind of parents are they going to be? What's the basis of that sense of core value, that work ethic, their ability to do things? And so as we go through this slide presentation, realize each of those things links together, because everything we try and do here at Flint Hill is very intentional, deliberate, strategic, and safe. And all of it is to try and provide benefits. You'll hear a lot about, things that are special at any school, and clearly at our school, things that we think are special. But what are the benefits for our children? What are the benefits for the kids that are here? And that's really, as a parent, what you're ultimately looking for when we talk about trying to get them well educated and do that. As you get to know us tonight, or if you have a chance to come visit, we're a very entrepreneurial school. We're a school that always is pushing ourselves to be better each and every day. I think our program, one of the benefits we share is that we constantly work at being relevant and dynamic, at the same time, very personal and very meaningful, that we try and make certain that our learning here is active and engaged, and something that truly does make a difference. Whoops, I went the wrong way on that one. So we'll go back there and keep going. Part of the idea here is to really make certain that we don't lose that sense of curiosity, even in the upper school, because that's what's led us to not only become innovative, but also the idea of really kind of unleashing that intellectual engagement, and to realize that they are doing it in the presence of teachers who truly want to be their mentors. And everything we do here at school is student-centered. There isn't a meeting I don't have when we're debating some of the things we've had to deal with COVID and everything else, where ultimately it would come down to what's in the best interest of the kids? What do we need to do? And one of the most important things we want to do with our kids is give them a sense of core values. And I will tell you, for many years at Flint Hill, we had a set of core values that were very direct: honesty, respect, responsibility, and compassion. But we also realized that this is a school that truly is focused on action. It's on momentum. It is making sure the learning is engaging and that everybody buys into it and really owns it. And so what ultimately happened was we ended up changing our core values, or building on them, and making them action-oriented. And these have really stood the test of time, I think. So let me walk you quickly through these. The idea of respect and value all equally. Well, let me tell you, who you are informs what you do, how you act, how you interact with other people. And here, the idea of respecting and valuing all equally is critically important. Everything we want to do is around the idea we want everyone who comes to this school to absolutely feel welcomed, valued, appreciated. We're a racially complex school with enormous, I think, diversity and appreciation for that diversity. We've got a great international diversity. If you looked at our website, you maybe have seen pictures with the flags on the walls. We have over 115 nationalities in our school family, our faculty and staff, our parents, our alumni, all of that. All of it is around how do we take advantage of that? How do we learn from that? How do we make sure we have an understanding of what that means in terms of equity and justice and where that goes? We also talk about leading and supporting with compassion, that having empathy, and then from that, ultimately leading in with that passion, it's critically important. And in fact, to be honest with you, we're also a school that takes pride in the fact that we are not a pressure cooker. And we all know there are lots of schools you can go visit, have great reputations, and you're there 5 minutes and wonderful school. It's a pressure cooker. I can almost feel the kids competing with each other. Here, by this idea of leading and supporting with compassion, we take passion over pressure. The kids are going to work hard. They're going to learn an awful lot. They're going to do an awful lot. They're going to have this comprehensive program, but believe me, you'll see kids laughing here, sitting, talking with their friends, talking with their teachers, realizing that they are a part of a special school family. something that we all take pride in. And I think that benefit that comes from that, of knowing that you're in a place that really is looking out for you and really is here for you, makes all the difference in the world. And we've got student clubs, peer counselors, leadership opportunities, all focused on those very ideas. The idea of acting with integrity, I mean, my gosh, honesty was one of the key things we just drilled into our boys when we were raising them, that we always needed honesty. Well, but you need to act with integrity. It isn't just know the word and say, I'll always be no, you got to act with it. You've got to look out for other people. You've got to be there for other people. From that comes the idea of trust. And I think as we've gone through the COVID period, whether it was the spring of the lockdown, all of last year, even coming into this year, I think the fact that we have acted with integrity with our parents, because we have followed the matrix that I learned a long time ago about good school leadership: communicate, 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 and making sure that we constantly were out there talking to people, sharing what we were thinking, what we were doing, and then listening to the feedback we would get. That built trust and built that partnership. Responsibility is what led us to this idea of imagine what's possible. What are some of the things we can do? That led us to not only our technology, where we've been an Apple Distinguished School for almost a decade, where we've got an ongoing relationship. I was on a Zoom call earlier today with almost 400 school leaders from around the world with Apple, talking about some key things about what we're all doing in our schools and doing that. We've been a part of a group called INMAX, which are 15 large, complex independent schools around the country. And we get together on a very systematic basis to benchmark. We benchmark with our local schools, but I love the fact that sometimes we benchmark with these schools from around the world in doing that. And imagine what's possible. My gosh, that's what led us to build the most unbelievable middle school building that is now on our campus for grades 7 and 8. And I will tell you, the one advantage for wearing a mask all year last year when we opened the building was the kids couldn't see my jaw drop open every time I walked in the building, because it is unbelievable. And all of that brings us to that idea of curiosity and innovation and everything. But ultimately, it leads to this idea of blaze the trail, helping students find their trail, where they want to go, what's going to be important for them, what passions will they have. We have students every year who go on to the governor's schools, and which is a big program that they offer for public schools and independent schools in Virginia. Most independent schools, if we can get 1 or 2 kids in, that's a bragging right, because you're going up against all the big public schools in the state. Our average for the last decade has been about 8 a year. It's led us to have a phenomenal arts program. And if you looked at any of the videos that we shared a little bit earlier that you could look at even before this program, our arts program is comprehensive. We have kids who go off to art institutes and art colleges and ways to pursue that, possibly even as a career choice down the road. Our athletics program is comprehensive and very competitive, and something that the kids really take pride in being a part of. But I will tell you, those are scholar athletes. They're doing it in the classroom, and my gosh, things like the college counseling, and the fact that our college counselors have all come from the college ranks and are really here to help the kids get prepared for how to apply to college and what to do, and to help parents with all that. And even with things like we have an innovation department. My gosh, I mean, we've got a classics department where we teach Latin and Greek, an innovation department where we make certain that the kids do things like robotics or cybersecurity, or the one that I love watching them perform is, and unfortunately the last 2 years because of COVID, they weren't able to do it, but I'll mention when we competed 3 years ago. It's called the Student Unmanned Aerial Program. 75 schools were invited to be a part of that program. 71 of them were the engineering departments at colleges and universities around the world. Only 4 high schools have ever been invited, and we've been invited for 7 years in a row. We were in the competition. They had to build a hovercraft that had to go up 750 feet. It had to fly over 8 miles. It had to, go around obstacles. It had to do all kinds of things. It had to carry a rover craft, drop that to the ground. That had to go to a thing, and it had to do all of that in under 30 minutes. When the competition was over, a university out of Quebec won it. Flint Hill, for the second year in a row, came in second. Now that's second in the world, first in the United States. And in the schools behind us on the list of American schools were Stanford University, Cornell, Harvard, U.S. Naval Academy, Virginia Tech. And in fact, 4 years ago, when we came in second for the first time, I loved the fact that Virginia Tech came in third, because that meant 2 Virginia schools were in the top 3 in the world. But what I really liked was the fact that 3 of the engineering students on the Virginia Tech team happened to be Flint Hill graduates, and we're trying to knock their high school out. And our kids rose to the occasion. But part of the benefit of blazing that trail is what fields the kids ultimately will go into, because we have graduates who are in medicine, doing cancer research. We have pro athletes. We have people that are in business, law, the military. You go down the list, but that's because they found their trail, and that trail started right here. And helping us with that trail and helping maybe your children find their trail here is also our vision for all students. And it's very simple and very direct. Take meaningful risks, be yourself, and make a difference. And some of that take meaningful risks is the chance to try and make their trail start right here. So I'm going to click back out of all that. And I know as you get to know me, I tend to talk fast and go fast, because there's so much. If you got me really talking about Flint Hill, I'd be here for an hour. But the beauty is I get that chance to share those core values with you. And I think they are so important, not only to us right now, but even as we go into life. And that vision statement that we created for the kids, I will tell you, many of us as adults have adopted it for ourselves and continue to live through those ideas of take meaningful risks, be yourself, and make a difference. So I'm not going to pass it on to, I think, a phenomenal educator, Don Page, who's our head of our upper school. He's been the head of an upper school in Florida. He joined us this year, and he's just done an amazing job of bringing a sense of warmth and character and commitment to everything we're doing. And it's as if he's been here forever. And I am going to turn it over to you right now, Mr. Page. So thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Parents, I know exactly where you're at. I have an 8th grade daughter. And like John just said, I'm just come to the area. And so as much as I'm happy to work here, part of this was knowing if I was going to bring my children with me. So I've been through this process. And I know what you're thinking as you look at schools. I've worked at schools from Oakland to San Francisco to Florida, everywhere you can imagine, Georgia. And I brought my children here with me. And so at the end of this, you'll get a message that says, reach out to Dawn if you have questions. And I sincerely hope you do. Because like I said, I'm in the same boat you were. I just got to do it a little earlier. And I couldn't be happier for having brought my children with me here as well, including my 8th grader, who very clearly is excited about being a high schooler next year, and very clearly made it a point that we are not allowed to talk to each other while we're in the building at the same time as we get together. So I really appreciate how John mentioned how much we take our core values really seriously. And it's not enough simply for us to kind of simply evince these statements, state these things. We really create a judicious and thoughtful plan to engender and nurture this culture. This is why when we start our school year, we have a very extended orientation with multiple segments that are held in either advisory, class meetings, or sometimes school-wide meetings. If you were to walk on campus during orientation week this year, you would have seen a multitude of activities ranging from the pragmatic, mundane to the socially complicated gathering. You would have seen advisors going over the student schedule with them, making sure they understand where they're going and when they need to be there. You would have seen sessions on the drop ad period, key behavioral expectations, textbook usage, and so on. But you'd see these things at most any school. What makes Flint Hill unique are the deeper activities that we utilize to build community among students that are both new and returning. We know that the field games that the juniors and sophomores played together on the field that week are going to yield better conversations between them in the hallways and in the classrooms. We know that when the athletic council sits each grade down in the gym to go over key Husky cheers at athletic events, This is going to result in more students being a part of the student section community where so much of the bonding happens between them. And we match up seniors with freshmen during the week, and we have them play games together, such as Pictionary. We're trying to begin the process of turning the seniors into mentors on campus to be leaders before they leave. The seminal moment of the week is when every student and faculty staff member signs our core values board, which is then put in the main hallway of the upper school building. These roughly 700 signatures serve as a daily reminder of the pledge that we have to each other in the classroom, on the field, and out in the greater community. We pass by it every day, we see it every day, and I reference it with students every day. The result of all this intentional and strategic work is the supportive community you'll notice when and if you get to step on campus. And this supportive community goes just beyond creating a safe place for students to learn, but it really allows students to think about taking meaningful risks and know that we learn through failing and we grow through experimenting. It's hard to blaze your own trail and imagine what if in a community that doesn't support these risks and innovations. I got to observe a French 1 class today where the students were more than comfortable just kind of yelling out different answers and trying different things. And they've only been taking French for some 4 weeks now. And it was clear they were comfortable being wrong. And because being wrong a few times helps you become right. You know, it can be as simple as the experience my own daughter has had as an 8th grader trying volleyball for the first time. From the moment she stepped out there, she's been surrounded by players and coaches who cared far more she was trying something new than they cared about her immediate ability to serve a ball. And this nurturing and support stays without them throughout their time at Flint Hill and is capped off by their senior project, where students pick an important topic to explore in great depth over about 50 to 60 hours of work before they graduate. So before we graduate them off in the world, we send them out in a mini exploration to pursue something they care deeply about. It's the ultimate moment of blazing their own trail and being their self. And since each senior picks their own project, it really is a representation of them. Last week, I was having a meeting with the organizers of the senior project system for this year, and organically the meeting turned to some of my colleagues sharing the many tears that they've shed after seeing the results of these amazing projects. And even one colleague turning to point at a painting that a student had made on the wall just to remember the project they had done and allowed for us to keep it. But before we can get your children to that point, we need to discuss our deep, broad, and really rich curriculum of studies. And so to go through the major points of that curriculum, we have Debbie Ayers with us, who's the assistant director of the upper school and also the upper school academic dean. So I'm going to hand it over to Debbie to talk about curriculum with everyone a little bit.
Thank you, Don. Hello, everyone. My name is Debbie Ayers, and I am the Assistant Director of the Upper School and the Academic Dean. And like Don, my 2 children have marched through the halls at Flint Hill and have been the recipients of what I feel like has been a wonderful experience, a wonderful education, and they have lifelong memories for being part of our program. I'd like to take just a few minutes to tell you about that program, and then also how my role as academic dean plays out into just an average school day. We have 8 academic departments, and I believe John touched on several of them in his comments. We have English, History, Social Sciences department, Modern Languages, Classics, Fine Arts department, Math, Science, and an Innovation department. And students will most likely take courses in at least 5 of them, but many of our students will go through a course in each of those departments. And I think that's part of the beauty of our program. While we stay mindful on what a student needs to meet their graduation requirements and receive a diploma, we want to open the gate for them to explore. The beauty of being a person who says, I'm a science kid. I love to take as many science courses as I can, but I also want to try my hand at singing in the choir. Or I've always been wonderful in English. I'm a voracious reader, but wow, I'm kind of intrigued by robotics. All of those things can be part of a student's schedule. And in terms of the different levels, we offer our college preparatory offerings have both AP, honors, and regular level courses. Students are not tracked in our program, so they may move about the levels as they move about the departments. And I especially like that because it helps us open conversations about balance. It's almost like going to your favorite restaurant and finding that now it has a buffet, so you don't have to pick your favorite item from the menu, but you can sample all of it. That can be overwhelming if you do try to sample all of it at one time. So balancing it over the 4 years becomes part of the mentoring process. Every student will be mentored in their academic choices by an advisor. We have small groups within our large class. In the advisory program, they will have an opportunity to get to know their advisor, to build a relationship, to become very open and trusting of the conversations and the back and forth. And so when it comes time to make academic decisions and to build a schedule, that relationship is already so deep that the conversation flows. It's easy. You can share the what ifs, the imaginings, and it leads to really great outcomes. Beyond the advisory, every grade level has a grade level dean. They carry on those conversations. They are engaging with students. They're not just set in an office for those particular moments where a student might need them. They're out and about holding grade level meetings, working with the students. Many of them are college counselors, and so they interact with our older students and with that hat on. And then beyond that, we have a dean of students. We have a counseling department that is excellent, our college counseling department. So all of these groups of people that are invested in our students help us build these academic programs and these academic experiences that I think are so wonderful. And then within our innovation department, you've heard about the robotics and cybersecurity, all of the courses that we offer under that umbrella. But another one that I'm particularly proud of is our independent studies, where if a student has an interest and they can't find it in our catalog, we can help them create it. A student can design a course, have a mentor, and then for a semester get to explore something that they've always wanted to learn about, but just didn't find the right course to do it. We can invent that. And there's nothing more innovative than that. So I love that program. And each semester we have groups of students that pursue that piece of their curriculum, as well as some of them will expand it into a second semester too if they're working on a project for the whole school year. So those are just a few of the aspects of our academic program. I work with students not just in selecting their courses, but I'm at the point now where I think I might have the best job in the school, because students are coming now with their courses in place, but we're talking about how they are learning. And that metacognitive place to get a 9th through 12th grader to is it's just so rewarding. So most of the conversations that I'm having with students right now is, how does it feel to be in that class? What are you finding that works? As you develop your study strategies for this year, what are you bringing from last year, and what are you trying on that's new this year? And how is that helping prepare you for success, not only for the rest of your high school career, but success in your university experiences and beyond? So that is just a snippet of academics at Flint Hill. I'd like to take a pause right now and hear from you. I see some questions filling in our chat. So Dawn and I will answer some of these. Our admission team will answer some well. We will answer them both in the chat as well as chime in. And if you would like to come on your mic and ask a question that way instead of in the chat, that's fine too. We're going to devote a few minutes to this before we transition to our panel discussion.
So I think the method we're going to use is Ms. Ayers will respond to some of these in the chat if they're specific towards that. And I see some already in the chat that we can read. But if someone would like to ask a question and open their mic, they're more than welcome to at this point before we bring the panel on. Well, while we have a second, why don't I kind of look at some of these and speak? One question I want to kind of highlight pretty particularly right now is I saw the small group advisory sessions. The sizes of those groups tend to be 12 students, sometimes less, but 12 is the maximum. And in the new calendar that we created, the new daily schedule, we try to build in a great deal more advisory time to work with students. Some of that was in the post-COVID world of helping them kind of reorient it to coming back to school. And some of that was for all the other variety of work that we were trying to do with students in terms of all of the other work outside the daily curriculum around building leaders, building metacognition and whatnot. And so you might see various things. Our juniors and seniors often are doing some college counseling work. There's work around core values. There's drug and safety education. It's a really robust curriculum, and they meet pretty frequently to do so. They also eat lunch together often right now due to the fact that we're trying to keep people eating apart from each other. And so they eat with their advisory. And so you'll walk by sometimes during an advisory lunch and see people doing a various amount of things, from setting up a basketball game against two other advisories versus ping pong versus puzzles and everything of that nature. So. Let's see. Any other questions? Well, maybe it'd be time, since it's 7:02, to go ahead and introduce our panel. And so this evening for you, we have some parents with us and we have some students with us. We also have our ninth grade dean, Andrew Kane, with us. And so I'm going to start with him and let him introduce himself. And then we'll move to parents from there. And then we'll let the students introduce themselves so you can get a sense of who's responding. So Andrew, if you're here, could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Don. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Kane. As Mr. Page mentioned, I am the freshman class dean, which is kind of a secondary role I hold here at Flint Hill. It's one I take great pleasure in. I'm also one of the 4 college counselors. So I really enjoy the opportunity to welcome our students to the upper school and then also support them on their way out of the upper school. It's a really great 4-year experience for me. I've been at Flint Hill for 11 years, and as you'll learn when you talk to different people, you wear a lot of hats here. So I've been the freshman class dean, I've been a senior project team leader, I've run the senior projects program, I've chaperoned prom, I have done just a lot of different things within the community. I've also been an advisor, both in a 10th through 12th grade advisor as well as a 9th grade advisor, and most importantly, I'm also a parent. I have a first grader in the lower school. So if that doesn't tell you how I feel about the school and what we do here, I've brought my own children as well. So looking forward to answering any questions you might have.
All right, next we have Allison Judge. Allison, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us the name of your children at this school, and anything specifically they're involved in school, any specific interest classes, anything that would help the group.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Allison Judge. I am the parent of a senior. So he is currently going through the college application process, actually with Mr. Kane as his advisor on that. And William is active in the cybersecurity club and has found a home in the art rooms this year, or throughout his time at Flint Hill.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. We also have Sibel Unsel with us. Sibel, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Sibel Unsel, and I have a senior as well. He has been at Flint Hill for 13 years, and I am currently the president of the Parents Association. My son is involved with SEA, so our student government, and also heavily involved with Latin in our Classics Club, and is currently the Virginia Junior League Classics president. Andrew Kate is nodding his head because he knew I'd get that wrong, but we're very happy to be here. Thank you all.
All right. And I believe we have 3 students with us this evening. The first student, Miles Stewart. Miles, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been here and anything special you do at the school?
Hi, I'm Miles Stewart. I came to Flint Hill in 9th grade. And at Flint Hill, I run cross country and track. I participate a lot in math, and I help run a math club now that does like math modeling competitions. I'm also involved in like the newspaper And yeah, I think that's it.
Well, that's enough. That's a lot, Miles. We also have Mariah Dempsey with us.
Hi, I'm Mariah Dempsey. I've been at Flint Hill since 5th grade, and I'm a junior now, and I'm a very art-oriented person. I'm involved in the theater right now, so come see Radium Girls if you'd like. That's our fall play. And yeah, that's a bit about me.
That's great. And the last student, I believe, joining us this evening is Claire Stevens. Claire, are you here?
Hi, I'm Clara Stevens. I came here last year and I'm a 10th grader now. I participate in track, soccer, and basketball every year. And one of my interests outside is debate. I'm on the debate team.
Well, what I'd love is we really do want parents and students to be part of this process, because often the answers they give can be very authentic and genuine and help parents and students. And I see some students here with us this evening next to their parent at the event. So does anyone have a question they'd like to put in the chat or open their mic to that maybe one of the parents or students could answer?
Hi, this is Andrea Riddle and Nate Riddle, and I think Nate has a question for Claire.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how does like the debate team work?
Yeah, so I remember last year there might not have been a debate team because there was COVID, but this year we do have a debate team, and luckily there's a lot of interest in this year, so we're going to probably have a bigger one. And so I believe that there are many different tournaments that we can join this year. A lot of them are online that we can choose. A lot of them are like through Tab Room. There are other ones that other private schools compete in, and other private high schools and public high schools. And so there's like just a lot of different tournaments we can choose from, or we can just choose to debate within our own debate team. And I think it's going to be really interesting because we have a lot of cool debate topics that people have entered in. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Nate, I think it said something. I was actually meeting with the debate sponsor this morning that a lot of things last year didn't happen. And the students came to the sponsor to say, we want to come back. Like, you know, we're not sure what people are going to do now with the COVID situation, but can we at least get together and start debating again in the excitement? And so that was a highlight of the morning. So I see in the chat, someone asked, what is it like to join the school in the 9th grade? And Miles, I think you said you started in 9th grade. You want to share your kind of experience?
Yeah, I joined Flint Hill in 9th grade. I came from Little Langley, and I would say that the transition was really like super easy. I believe my year, like half of the people coming in 9th grade did not go to Flint Hill. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's around there. So there are a lot of people that were like in the same experience as me, and it was very easy to meet people through sports, through obviously classes and different activities. And I felt like everyone was like wanted to get to know you, and it was like the best transition I could have ever imagined. I was a little bit nervous at the start, just going into like a new school, and it's also Flint Hill is like I would say it's a pretty big private school, but I would say that's really good because it's so much of a bigger private school. There are like different types of people you can meet, and there are more people that can like help introduce you into the community, and the teachers were very supportive as well.
Yeah, that's great. And Miles is right. We roughly will add, it's sometimes half, sometimes 40%, depending on the year, but a large chunk. And so the 8th grade to 9th grade transition is it feels like there's so much newness in there that it's not just the group that's always been together, which is one of the things I think is a strength of the upper school, quite frankly. My previous school, we actually would only add like 8 to 10, and it was hard to become part of that group. We roughly have about 130, 140 ninth graders, as I see in the question in the chat, on a yearly basis. Oh, and I see a parent in the chat saying they could speak as a parent for that topic. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Deirdre Shaughnessy. I'm on with my daughter, Mairead Radke, and I have a current senior now, Aiden Radke, and my daughter is a sophomore now at Tech, and she was, they both started freshman year. They both came from a small private school, Green Hedges, And it was really great. Like they went over, she's a great soccer player. She played soccer. She did swimming. She did all sorts of sports. They did peer counseling. They got involved in tons of things. She had a different end to her senior year, but it was still great during COVID. And our sons had a great experience. And I think that was something they talked about with other friends, that they did not feel they were just one of 10 or 20 joining a bigger group. There was a lot of kids from different public and private schools joining, and joined through the years, that they really appreciated. So as a parent, I worried about that a little and didn't after the first day. It was great for both kids.
I appreciate you sharing that. And believe me, I was worried too. Like my 8th grade girl, I was sort of, how's that going to kind of integrate in? And even going into 8th grade, which has a smaller number, we were at the football game last Sunday, and it took us forever to leave because she was just hugging people as we were trying to leave. And I was like, Brecken, let's go. But as a parent, you kind of like that. So I see.
If I could just
ask how many students are in each class. Maybe each student could share how many are in your biggest and in your smallest, so we can get an authentic answer. So maybe Mariah, start with how many students are in their biggest class and your smallest, and then we'll go Claire and Miles.
My biggest class, I think, is like 15 people. Yeah.
And what about your smallest?
And my smallest is probably closer to like 8.
Clara?
I think my biggest is probably like 13. It's not that big. And my smallest is art, which I have with Maria. And we have 8 or 7. I think it's 8, actually. Yeah.
And Miles?
I'd say my biggest is around 16, and my smallest, my math class, I think is around 9 or 10. But sophomore year, I had a Spanish class that I think it only had 5 or 6 people. So I've had smaller in the past.
Yeah, and for the institutional answer, we try very hard to cap classes at 18, and very rarely go above that. And the French 1 class I saw today had 6 students. So you'll see that range, but I thought asking the students would give you kind of an authentic answer. I see someone asked, could one of the students describe a typical day at Flint Hill? Mariah, why don't you tackle that one?
A typical day is probably, well, each day is very different because of the schedule. And we kind of have this schedule where we have different classes each day in different orders. So you don't really have like each day, everything is like the exact same. It changes for each day of the week. The day kind of starts out with advisory, and you get to be with your advisory group, which is like the group that you get to know a lot and like pretty well throughout your college experience or your high school experience. Your freshman year, it's one group, but then your sophomore year, you get an advisory and you keep that for the rest of your high school career. So you kind of really get to know them really well. So after that, basically, there's 2 classes normally, and then you have a break or town meeting or community time. And that can either be with your advisory or just time where you get to talk to other people. And then you have another class, and then we have a class, which is the lunch period. And you either have first or second lunch, where you get to eat and then you go to class, or you go to class and then you eat. And then normally one more class, and then you have office hours where you can ask teachers questions.
And what time normally does office hours end so athletics begins, for those who are involved in athletics or arts?
I think office hours begins at 2:45, which is when your last class about ends. And then you have about 30 minutes of office hours at the end of the day. I think it ends at 3:15. And then you have my soccer starts at 3:45. So I have about another 30 minutes to either go to the library, hang out with friends, go to my sports early, or even talk to some teachers continuing till 3:45, which is when my practice starts.
And as someone who's worked at a variety of schools, I'll tell you, one of the greatest things I appreciate is the size of our fields allows all of our practices to essentially end at 5:45, so that we can create a late bus that all of the athletes, as someone himself who used to coach girls basketball a long time, and sometimes you'd get the 8 p.m. practice slot, the fact that everyone can be done around 5:45 and get on a bus. If it's a practice, games are different, obviously, I think is a game changer for students, which I think helps us nicely. One of the people in the chat asks, can one of the students discuss their workload and how easy or hard it is to manage? Miles, why don't you start with us? You're a senior, so you've been through all the grades. Talk about workload.
Yeah, so I would say it's pretty manageable. Throughout my time at Flint Hill, I've taken pretty challenging, a lot of like AP and honors. I'll just go like by the years. I would say freshman year, you can get like pretty much all of it done within school. Like because there's so much time within the school day, which I really appreciate. If you have like a free period, you can get a lot of work done, and then throughout the day, there's time in like office hours. There's an office hours 4 days a week from 10:30 to 11. And then the office hours at the end of the school day. So by like talking to teachers, using your time effectively, you can get most of it done. And then I would say like sophomore year, it's definitely manageable. And then once you get to like junior and senior, when a lot of people start taking APs, I would say it gets harder, but it's never like too much. And then also by meeting with people like Miss Ayers, like they'll make sure that you're taking like manageable classes. And I would just say like through using office hours and like speaking with your teachers and communicating like how you're doing, I would say like the workload is it's like challenging, but it's never been too much.
Sibel, Allison, we haven't heard from you. You guys get to see the other side, watching the students maybe close the door, go in a room and work. What do you notice about the students and their workload?
For William, I can say that I agree. It's been pretty manageable. There's plenty of free time, I think, during the day, and depending on your after school requirements, whether that's sports or theater or any other clubs that you might be in, there is time. And I think it's been manageable at home as well. It's, normal bedtimes. There's still time for activities with family and friends throughout the week and on the weekends too. But I think it kind of depends on your class load that you're taking and kind of the rigor that you decide to approach with as well, but it hasn't been overwhelming at all.
I think one of the best things about Flint Hill is you kind of design the experience that you would like. So if you're a kid that wants to maybe, take the classes that you like, but then play sports and have a great social life, you're all set. If you're a kid that wants to take 4 APs and be involved in lots of clubs, then you're going to be busier. But I think it's manageable and no one is totally stressed out. Right, Miles?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So I think it kind of is up to the child, but that's what Flint Hill does great. And teachers really do understand, other commitments and kind of what your goals are.
Just to go off that, I think it's that at Flint Hill, there really is a place for every kind of kid. It's not just everyone plays sports all year long. And, then the kids that don't play sports are kind of, on their own. Really, there's something for everybody. And that's been one of the strongest things that we've liked about this school.
One thing I saw in the chat, maybe this is best for one of our admissions individuals to answer, was when accepting new students for 9th grade, do you look to take students from a broad range of other schools? So maybe Jennifer, Julie, Lori, any of you want to answer that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do, when we're looking at admission for 9th grade, we do have, of course, a variety of students coming from our 8th grade, which makes up quite a bit of the 9th grade class, but about half are coming from other schools. And we are looking for students with coming from a wide variety of schools with a wide variety of backgrounds. So we have some that are coming from other private schools in Northern Virginia, and then also a lot that are coming from public schools as well.
And a question about homeschoolers that kind of adds to that, Jennifer. What about homeschoolers?
Yeah. So we at all grade levels, we often have students that are transitioning from homeschool environments. So the admission process and the documents that we're collecting looks, of course, a little bit different, but we'll work directly with your family and determine what makes sense for us to collect from you in order to get a good picture of your student profile and if Flint Hill is the place for you to succeed. So we'll just any of the, it depends on what homeschool program you're using, but we'll collect whatever records and reports we can from that, along with the other admission requirements. And we'll go through those other requirements in a little bit more detail in about 10 minutes or so.
Well, another question I see in the chat is, how is transportation to and from school, and is there a bus? So we do have a transportation system. It's based and designed around the need of the groups that are there. So I know that we send out information to find out where people are at, and then we run lines based on where we think that people need them. We could send you clarity about where we run them this year. So if you follow up with any of the admissions counselors or myself, we're happy to give you that information. That bus drops them off on campus in the morning, far in advance of time for advisory, so that they're there. And then one set of buses leaves in the afternoon, right after school. It leaves essentially both campuses around 3:45. If you have to shuttle from the upper school to the lower school to get to the main buses. And then, like I said, the great perk is that second bus system that leaves around 5:45, 6-ish for our, what we call our activities bus. And so today my daughter was practicing for the Nutcracker, and she could have got on that bus. I walked by the theater students running rehearsals for some things. I saw an early game for field hockey. Sorry, Claire, I didn't walk by the soccer game. I was watching field hockey for the first time. And then, and so athletes in practice could get on that bus as well. And so that's the system we use for transportation. Of course. Are there any other questions or things from the group? I see one question: how many academic classes do students take per day? I'm gonna let Debbie answer this one just to make sure I don't get it wrong. Debbie, could you address for the group how many classes students tend to take per day?
Sure. We have 7 academic blocks that are possible. We recommend that students take either 5 or 6 and then hold that 7th block open for a free period or a study period. Some students will have a monitored study session during that time where there's an adult in the room to help them with goals and planning and anything else that they might want a little extra structure or support for their day. But most students are taking 5 or 6. A student who takes 5 courses every year will meet our graduation requirements, which is 20 academic credits. So it works out very nicely. But I would say at one point or other, students are taking that 6th course, or as a 9th grader, at least 1 quarter of the year, they will have a human development course, which is taught by our counselors. It's very similar to a health and wellness curriculum, and all of our 9th graders will take that for a little portion of their year.
That's great. Thank you, Debbie. Some other questions. What time does the day start? The first advisory starts at 8:10. And that advisory goes to 8:20 before we start our first classes, normally at 8:25. I think we have a parent who wanted to speak on the Learning Center.
Yeah, we just had a great experience. Our son Aiden used the Learning Center. He came from a wonderful school, Green Hedges, and he went right in there, and the teachers and everybody working there are just fantastic. It was just a wonderful experience. And I think I'm not sure who talks about it among faculty admissions tonight, but I just thought that should get a big, huge shout out for just how fantastic it was run, and how much you put into it is how much you get out of it. And he's just excelled in such a wonderful way and independently in a great because of it.
I appreciate that. The program run by Dr. Harper, the coaching program, is amazing. And it has a lens to making sure to help those students after they leave Flint Hill so that they're prepared in college and beyond. And they do a lot of great work working with these students based on their different needs. I see one student: what do Flint Hill students do over the summer? Are there trips? Does school help students find internships? Maybe I'll let Sibel and Allison ask this, since they might best know what their children do over the summer. I think it varies pretty heavily for everybody.
So for mine, he's done a number of different things. I mean, he goes to Latin Convention, National Latin Convention. He has worked. He has volunteered at Smithsonian. He has taken a class, university class over the summer. And the last summer, we made him take it off and we went overseas. So kind of a variety.
I would agree. The same thing we've done. Excuse me. We've done lots of travel. We've done classes through university and things like that. William doesn't have a job right currently. This past summer did not work, but you know, many kids do even during the school year also.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, any other things that the group might want to ask while we have the panel with us? We have a hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yes, we were wondering if do you guys have any school trips during the year of all 4 years?
Sure. So I'll talk a little bit about that. So I can tell you, obviously last year was unique, but here's all the ones that I've already approved for this year. If you're in Latin, we were working today to get the bus for the Latin convention down to Richmond because so many of our students are leaders in that, like Sibel's son. Also, the vice president is a Flint Hill Husky. Our choir group, Major Minors, is going to do some performances in the city. There are trips where one group is going to go see what's called Bard on the Bus, Shakespeare during the day. And there are a host of others. I think the last spreadsheet I saw for submission pre-COVID had something like 170 requests on it. So it's a pretty robust set of trips that faculty put together. We call them field studies. And so they do take them. It's hard sometimes to do them in larger class groups. So a lot of it depends on your interest and what group you're in. But if you're in robotics or Latin or the arts, you're traveling and seeing things and doing things. And then if you have Mr. Atwood's biology class, you'll be wandering all around campus in the woods, banding birds and seeing ecosystems and things like that. So, all right. In the chat, I say, do your AP courses prepare the students to get a 5 on the AP exam? So I'm going to be the educator in this and answer that in a principally way, as it were. I want everyone to remember that the AP is designed to divide the students in the country into small categories. And so I've taught AP Economics, AP Human Geography, AP US History. And no matter what happens in an AP Macroeconomics course, 6% of the nation gets to have that 5, right? And that is set up no matter how great they all do. What I will tell you that we unequivocally do, and I'll stand by it because my kid is going to be going through it, is wherever the child is, we make them better by the time they leave that course. And so for some students, a 3 is such a victory that they will celebrate for 2 weeks on getting a 3 on AP US History. And for some students, it's 5 or nothing. And that student probably could have scored a 5 the day they walked in the class. And we're going to make sure they score a 5 the day they walk out. So the answer to that is for the students that have that preparation, that drive, we will get them there to what they want to go. But I'd be a foolish man to ever promise every student who comes to Flint Hill is going to get a 5 because that's just not the way the world designed it and surely not the way College Board wants it. So that's the way I would kind of respond to that. But Clara, you said you wanted to hop in on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a new experience this year as I'm a 10th grader, and I decided to take an AP this year, which was like crazy to me because I would never thought I would do, and I was very worried. I'm taking AP Human Geography, which seemed really interesting to me. And I was worried about the AP exam because I've always heard about it's hard and there's like 1 to 5. I didn't know much. And on like the first few days, we got our textbooks and our syllabuses. And my teacher talked a lot about preparing for the AP exam. And she also did stress that the AP exam is not part of our school grade, which helped to take a lot of the stress off. But it also like motivated me that I could try to do really well on this. And we use the AP College Board website we have like quizzes and readings and videos that we watch for homework a lot that prepare us for the AP exam. And on the textbook, the AP exam is referenced like every single page. It tells us, pro tip, on the AP exam, you're going to see this, you're going to see this, and you need to make sure you remember this. And so even though I'm just like a month into the course, I feel like maybe the AP exam isn't so scary as I thought it was.
Just as a parent watching your child take their first AP class, you sign up and you're thinking, oh goodness, how's this going to go? And the teachers are really great at that. I mean, yes, you get all the content prep, but I think more importantly, you get kind of the test structure prep, what kinds of questions and the formats they're expecting. And they do practice the whole year, how to answer this type of question, what they're looking for. So by the time you actually get to the exam, you're not overwhelmed by how to answer, and it's more of an opportunity for you to show what you know. I think the other kind of a bonus to an AP class is, the AP exams come in May before the end of the school year, and there's kind of some time after that exam to do a special project or, focus on other things that maybe are not on that in that way.
Well, I see one more question in the chat, and I'd love to hand it over to the admissions team for the schedule so they could walk through a few things. And the question is about volunteer opportunities, which is something that hits my heart where in a strong place. My wife has always worked for nonprofits that live off volunteer opportunities. So that's really amazing. So we have a community service director that works with a lot of students about community service and volunteerism and is constantly providing opportunities. And even through the pandemic has been finding ways to engage students. And we have other members of our community that support her to find opportunities for students, because we want that volunteer opportunity to match them where they're passionate, because then they'll do it forever. And so I was working with a sophomore in my economics class the other day about, what's the community service that he'll become passionate on. And he was sort of like, I just don't want to serve food. And I was like, there's so much more. Then we went to the website, looked at all the different things he could do. And he's like, this is what I want to do. I was like, well, let's do that. Let's go for that. So I think now I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer and her team to kind of go through the admissions download. And please know how sincere I am when I'm saying you'll get a message from us thanking you for coming. And if you have questions, find myself, find Ms. Ayers, find the leadership of the admissions team. We're happy to keep the conversation going as we move forward. So thank you so much. Jennifer, I hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Don. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Andrew, and to all of our parents and students on the panel. Really appreciate your participation this evening. So at this point, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the admission process and the next steps in admission. So at Flint Hill, our admission team absolutely loves getting to know new families. So we really want the beginning of our partnership together, which starts at the admission process, to be very low stress. And we approach it the Flint Hill way, which means with transparent, supportive, intentional dialogue throughout the entire experience. And we're keeping the student at the center of everything we do, and the mission at the center of everything we do, and all of our conversations and the decisions that we'll make together throughout the admission process. So we ask families to bring their authentic selves, not to feel too much pressure by the process, and we'll certainly bring our authentic selves as well. In terms of what is required to apply, so this is the general list of what's required to complete the admission process. So the first step is completing the admission application. So that's linked there. It's everywhere on our website. It only takes about 15 or 20 minutes to complete the actual application form. Once you submit that application form, within 24 hours, once your application is processed, you will have a live checklist that is generated in Husky Hub for you, so that you'll be able to track any documents that you've submitted already, and also you'll see what is missing. And so those documents required are transcripts, progress reports from a current institution attended, recommendations, math, one from the current math teacher and one from the current English teacher. A lot of parents ask if we are willing to take supplemental recommendations, and especially with this last year and some of the varied formats in learning, and absolutely. So we still require the math teacher recommendation from the current year and the English teacher recommendation from the current year, but we'll also take a supplemental one, and that is available in the checklist if you'd like to submit that. There are questionnaires, one that is completed by the parent, one that's completed by the student. We ask for a graded writing sample to be submitted. And then the SSAT, we actually, before the pandemic even started, we had planned to go into the direction of making the SSAT optional. And so we are completely SSAT optional at this point. If you need help deciding whether or not your child should take the SSAT, just let us know. We're glad to speak with you one-on-one and navigate the different variables there. Generally speaking, if your student has had a clear and consistent academic record and progress, then the SSAT probably isn't a data point that we need. If it has been anything other than that, talk with us. We can decide whether your child should take it. And if your child is taking it for another reason, go ahead and submit it to us. And we'll certainly include that in the file and the admissions committee review. So, and then there is also a parent and student interview as part of the process. And so we are doing these on campus or virtual. It is up to the parent and the student. On campus would be for vaccinated visitors. And you can just let us know which one you prefer when you schedule that. Before I move on, I will mention something about the scheduling is that interview schedules do fill up. We're getting ready to talk about the timeline in a moment. But one of the first steps once you get that checklist is we do recommend getting that interview on the schedule. Okay, so when do you apply? Now would be a great time. The application did open in September. I know some of you here already have applied, so thank you for that. For those of you that haven't, the application is live. Like I said, it takes 15 or 20 minutes. And once you do that, that really starts your, keeps you on the radar with our admission team so that we can be your partner in making sure that you don't miss any steps along the way. We will help you see what is next and anticipate what you should be thinking about throughout the process. So that's why we recommend getting that application form in early so that we can help you in that way. October, if you're going to determine that you're going to schedule admission test, like the SSAT, then you can go ahead and do that. You'll also, as I mentioned, want to get the interview on the schedule. Even if the interview isn't until December, still just getting that scheduled for November, December, the very latest, early of January. In November, our recommendation forms actually open October 11th. But a lot of times families will send this to the recommender, and regardless of what dates they give, the recommender might be excited and jump in to complete it, even though they've only had your child in class for a couple weeks. So you might want to wait until like the beginning of November. Typically by that time, a recommender is able to give some really useful concrete insight. So around November timeframe is when you'll want to really start getting the teachers involved in submitting the recommendations. If you're interested in applying for financial aid, that opens on November 1st. And then we recommend having all of these components completed by end of December. You'll see that the admissions deadline isn't actually until January 21st, and that is the final deadline for all of these components. But just in case you're having trouble getting a recommendation or a transcript or a record, we do recommend aiming for that end of December completion so we can overcome any obstacles that might pop up in your completing the process. And completing it by the January 21st deadline ensures that you will receive a decision on the decision release date, which is March 4th for all AISGW schools. That's the Association of Independent Schools of Greater Washington, and we are a member of that. So we follow that timeline. January 25th, the financial aid application is due. And then decisions released March 4th. The next week is revisit events. And then April, we start celebrating that we found each other, and we start putting all the next steps into place so that your student can transition successfully to Flint Hill. So we'll have celebrations, information nights, socials, and then we'll be sending you a bi-weekly newsletter to help you prepare for the transition. So these are our 3 upper school team members. We actually have them here. So if you have your grid of people up, well, Lauren South, if you want to give a wave, and then Justin Fitzgerald and Julie Lewis. And all of these team members are really excited to work with you and get to know you if you haven't already started the conversations with them. In terms of next steps, you're at an event now, fantastic. We are planning to have the November 7th upper school preview in person. So that is a great opportunity to get onto campus. Our faculty will be there doing demonstrations of their classes. So you'll see some of our faculty members in action at that event as well. We'll be sending out an invitation to applicants to come onto campus for a student visit experience. And so that will go out to applicants. So it's another great reason to get the application in so that your student can come to campus to have a student visit experience and attend a couple classes in the morning with one of our student ambassadors. And then back to a couple virtual events. On December 1st, we have middle school and upper school virtual fine arts and innovation event. On December 14th, we have a virtual curiosity event, which is something that we find so important here at Flint Hill, that we've centered an entire event around curiosity. And no need to remember all of these. A lot of them are already on our website. If they're not there yet, they will be added in the coming weeks as the event approaches. And since you're at this event, we have your email address, so we'll be sure that you get invitations to all of those. If you'd like to connect individually, you can come to campus. We are inviting people to campus for tours. If you're not able to come on November 7th and you want to see the building, you can go to our Visit Campus website and you can schedule an upper school tour, which will, of course, be done in person. And then you can also schedule virtual meetings, phone consultations with any of our upper school admission officers. And then we're also very live on and active on social media. So we put out a lot of information on social media for our current families, but also for families that are in your shoes. We really think about topics of things that you might want to know. And we do post on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Vimeo. All of those are linked at the bottom of our website on the main page, so you can get to any of those. And that concludes the admission segment of the presentation. So I see we have a couple questions in chat here related to admissions and financial aid. And if anybody else has any, please feel free to send them in via the chat. Are financial aid decisions made separately from admission decisions? And absolutely, yes. So our admission decisions are made by our admission committee, which is typically the division directors, admission team members, director of our learning center, director of counseling, director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's made by one group, and then completely separately, the financial aid applications are reviewed and financial aid decisions are made. And our financial aid program is need-based. Any other questions? I'll pause for a minute. Feel free to unmute yourself or send a question into the chat if any are coming to mind. Okay. Is there a special program for students in art, drawing, painting, and sculpting? And what options are there for those interested in programming and web design? Lauren, do you want to take that, or Debbie, if you're still here? I have my presenting screen up, so I can't see who still might be here. Do either one of you want to take that?
If they're not,
Lauren.
Oh,
I apologize. I had my mute. Oh, Clara, did you want to jump in?
Or Clara, feel free to jump in. That would be great.
I'm in art 2 right now, and I've talked with my art teacher. She's told us all this. When you get to your last year of art in senior, you get to do portfolio art where you get your own little studio and you get to do for the whole year your own thing in your own little studio and create anything that just inspires you. And kind of the point is to create a portfolio for when you're either like showing off or you're trying to apply for colleges. And at the end of the year last year, I know that all the stuff that the portfolio artists made that year was hung up in the hallways. And it was really, really cool to see what they'd been working on. They're like amazing paintings. And for Art 3, there is a kind of thing where the students get to choose the curriculum. So they get to tell the teacher what they want to see that year in their art course. So if they're interested in paper mache or like paper collage, they could tell the teacher that, and the teacher can put that into the curriculum. For programming web design, there are like design classes, I'm pretty sure, and like photography and like Photoshop are in those. So.
Thanks so much, Clara. Yeah, we have a wide range of digital art options, including graphic design, digital photography. We have a topics in new media course, which allows our digital artists to progress in specific areas. We have a filmmaking class, and in terms of that covers web design. We also have computer programming. We talked about the robotics offerings. We also have computer science, which starts out at the introductory level and then moves upwards to AP computer science. And those students will partner with members of our robotics team, as John mentioned, that are competing in the international competition. So they'll be on the programming side of things.
Okay, and then we have a question. Do you have any scholarship programs? Are they merit or need-based? We are all financial aid. So it is all need-based financial aid for our financial program. Okay, any other questions? Feel free to send them in or unmic yourself.
Barbara, I think there's a question about core required classes and electives. So typically, and Clara, feel free to jump in, or Julie, typically students, as Debbie mentioned, will take 6 classes, which would include the 4 or 5 core areas, right? English, math, history, science, and then a foreign language, which is required up to a level 3 or up to level 2 in 2 different languages. And then that would leave room for a full year elective or 2 semester-based electives. Now, as they kind of chip away at their diploma requirements, their schedule would open up certainly in their junior and senior years to allow more space for electives or to double up in certain disciplines that they're passionate about.
Okay. Feel free to send any other questions. This will be the last segment, but if you don't have any more questions now and you think of some later, you can certainly email us, call us, schedule one of the meetings like I mentioned. We're certainly accessible. So if you think of them later, we'll still be here to answer them. Justin or Julie, do you want to take the dress code question?
Yes, we do have a dress code. Our upper school students do not wear a uniform. And so students can wear, pants, shirts, sweatshirts. In terms of sweatshirts, mostly Flint Hill, our dress code has also become a little bit more relaxed since we've gone through COVID. Claire, Miles, and Mariah, you could also kind of, chip in here just to share your experience in terms of the changes in the dress code. But, definitely we want students to come to school comfortable, ready to learn. But, restrictions are pretty typical in terms of, no inappropriate language on sweatshirts or shirts and things like that. They come pretty comfortable. Jeans are now allowed on a regular basis, but not as structured as it used to be, especially since COVID.
Thank you, Julie. Okay. Well, I will take the quiet as that we've answered all your questions for now, which is great because that's what we set out to do with the program this evening. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll send a follow-up email with some hopefully helpful links in terms of next steps in the process, whether that means applying right away or whether that means learning more about Flint Hill. So we thank you so much for attending tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing you really, really soon and continuing this conversation. Hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Yeah. Thank you, students, and thank you, parents, for all your insights and ideas. It was terrific. And thank you all for joining us.